Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time it is when you hear this message, I pray that you're poised to receive, to accept, and to respond to words of wisdom. Ashe. A driving force in my work till this point has been to clarify and simplify things. Because if something is clear, it's simple. And if it's simple, then it can get done. And I think that your spiritual identity is something that only becomes real if you can do it, if you can embody it, right? If you can be certain about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and connect it to your deepest spiritual values and your deepest spiritual identity, then it becomes real. It's not just ideas. So imagine you are using a butter knife for a screwdriver, or imagine you're using the oven to heat your house, or imagine you have a helicopter and you're using the helicopter to go to the corner store to get eggs, milk, and butter. And imagine everybody you know is doing that. All your friends, all your families, for as long as you've known, that's how they do things. And that's what you consider normal. It's cool until somebody, shows you otherwise. When you get central heating and you experience central heating, you're never going to use the oven again to heat your house. When you get a packet of 20 screwdrivers, you're never going to use a butter knife ever again. When you get a bicycle, and you can zip over to the store and back, right? No matter how fresh your screwdriver, your helicopter is, you're never going to get in the helicopter to go 4 blocks, right? It's just not fuel efficient. But it's that kind of an idea of making things really, really simple and really, really clear that has driven my work up till this point. And so what do I mean by that? I mean, for example, a lot of people, really the majority of the people here in the diaspora, have made the mistake of identifying with their Orisha, for example. That has been a real driving point, right? People think that they need to know who their Orisha is because Orisha is your identity. Orisha is not your identity. You are not Oshun. You are not Obatala. You are not Ogun. You're not going to become your Orisha. 25, 35, 40 years of devotion and worship and sacrifices and ceremonies, you are not going to become Shango. It's not going to happen. Shango is going to help you to become a better version of yourself, perhaps. Shango will guide you and protect you. But you're not going to become Shango. You're not going to become Ogun or Oromila, right? Likewise, people who are more Ifa-centric will tend to think that Ifa is going to tell me my identity, right? If my Orisha won't tell me my identity, Ifa is going to tell me my identity. I am my Odu. You are not your Odu. You are not your Odu. Ifa is not going to tell you your identity. It's not going to tell you who you are. Ifa is going to tell you your fate. Okay? Let's say, for example, for the case of analogy, your identity is a certain seed. And you go to consult Ifa. Ifa will tell you, oh, you're at the beginning of something. You need to make ebo. You need to make sacrifice with soil and water. Later on, Ifa's going to tell you need to make sacrifice with sunlight and oxygen or, carbon monoxide, right? If I can tell you, oh, you're going to be buried, and then you're going to experience some growth. You're going to get a branch. You're going to, right? If I can tell you the sequence of events that are going to happen that will transform you and allow you to become whole, Ifa will tell you that. But Ifa is not going to tell you you're the grape seed, or you're the mango seed, or you're the melon seed, or you're the cherry seed. Ifa is not going to tell you that, right? You are not your Orisha. You are not your Odu. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are not your words. You are not your actions. You are not your habits. You are the one that chooses your Orisha. You're the one that chooses your fate. You're the one that chooses your thoughts, your feelings, your words, your actions, your habits. Your Ori is the chooser. You are the chooser. Okay? That's you. And so, huge part of my work has been helping you understand and clarify, hey, it's you and your ability to choose that creates your reality and reinforces your prenatal choice. You are the one that made your prenatal choice, and everything that you do after that either reinforces your prenatal choice or works against or contradicts your prenatal choice. Okay? And so right now where I am in the mission is trying to really help you understand that your prenatal choice, which represents light, which represents contribution, it represents your commitment to helping to bring about the good condition, as bright as it is, as magnificent as it is, as necessary as it is, it also casts a shadow. Everything that exists, everything that brings light also has a shadow. And the nature and function of the shadow is dark. It's destructive. It is all of those things that are problematic. It's anger, it's violence, it's destruction. That's the nature of the shadow. So by denying the shadow, saying that you don't have any of those attributes, you strengthen the shadow, you darken the shadow, you intensify the shadow. Likewise, by moralizing the shadow, by pretending that the shadow is something benevolent, right? You intensify the shadow. A lot of times when people, they say the shadow, the first thing they want to say is the shadow's not all bad. Likewise, when we talk about Awon Iyami, first thing people want to say, it's not that bad. They're not that bad. But all those people are doing is intensifying the shadow. That's just another form of denial. The nature and the function of the shadow is to be dark, is to be destructive. You cannot make it not dangerous. Right? So it's why in mythology, there's always the mythological forest, the dark forbidden forest. That represents the shadow. The purpose of it is to be dark. It's where you go to discover your dark nature, your destructive tendencies. So here's an example I want to give you that comes to mind. You may have seen the movie Star Wars, right? And if you haven't, watch it with this lens, and it'll make a lot of sense. There's a part in Star Wars where Luke Skywalker goes into this swampy, dark, dank forest, and he's getting trained by Yoda, who's this strange, otherworldly creature. And at one part of the training, Luke is drawn to this little hollow. Is right. There's like this viney, dark passage in this forest. So the forest is already dark, but then there's this dark little passage, and Luke Skywalker is drawn to it, and he starts to walk in. And as he's going into this little tunnel, his greatest enemy, who he's been preparing to battle with, shows up. It's Darth Vader. And Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker face off, and they break out their lightsabers, and they battle, and Luke Skywalker beheads Darth Vader. And then when Luke Skywalker is looking at the head with the mask on, the mask explodes and Luke Skywalker sees his own face in Darth Vader's mask, right? And so what happened? This is a prelude to telling us that, there is this one force. There's the force, and then there's the empire that has embodied the darkness of the force, and then there are the rebels that embody the light of the force. And Luke Skywalker turns out to be Darth Vader's son. So the head of the dark side is the father of the head of the light. And it's been prophesied that only Luke Skywalker can destroy the force, the dark side of the force. And so Luke Skywalker again faces off and he fights with his father, Darth Vader. But at the point that Luke realizes what it boils down to, he realizes what he has to do and what he cannot do in order to truly win. He cannot kill Darth Vader, because by killing his father, Luke Skywalker will automatically belong into the dark side. He will have switched over to the dark side. No matter what he does after that, he will belong to the dark side. Instead, he has to shine light onto the dark side. And he has to appeal to or activate, illuminate that whatever traces and remnants of light that are still in Darth Vader to make the darkness work for the light. Right? And so it's a great metaphor for integrating the shadow. It does you no good to pretend that the shadow is benevolent. It does you no good to pretend that the shadow is not shadowy and it is not dangerous. Likewise, it does you no good to pretend that Awon Iyami is benevolent. It does you no good to pretend that Awon Iyami doesn't have destructive powers, right? And so what I do in my book, Shadow Mothers, what I do is I do what I have always done is to really illuminate all of the different facets, or many of the different facets and dimensions of Awon Iyami according to the sacred text, not according to opinion, not according to how I feel or how other people feel. We look at the sacred text of Ifa to illuminate all the different dimensions and the dynamic interplay between Awon Iyami and the other spiritual entities that belong to our pantheon. Okay? And so, again, to just draw it back into how my work has developed up to this point. Earlier, I was talking about Ori and how Ori is destiny. And people will just say Ori, Ori, Ori. But you can't act on Ori. You can't really engage with the full scope of Ori's capabilities if you don't understand that Ori is not just one thing. You got to go into the sacred text and understand that there are at least 9 different facets of Ori. In order for you to really engage with Ori and make the proper sacrifice and change your perspective, you got to understand the different dimensions of Ori. There's a dimension that's related to your mother. There's a dimension that's related to your father. There's a part that goes before you. There's a part that recalls the ancestral memory. There's all these different dimensions of your Ori. And the better you understand those subtleties, according to what Ifa teaches us, not according to what people just say one word, oh, Ori, it means destiny. There's more to it than that. It's the same kind of an approach that I've taken with Shadow Mothers. We're looking at the dynamic interplay between the Shadow Mothers, between Awon Iyami and Ori, between Awon Iyami and Egungun, Egelede, the earth, between Olodumare, their relationship to different Orisha, their relationship to Oshun, to Obatala, to Shango, right? What actually happens, and what specific lessons do we glean from each one of these engagements in these episodes? Because what happens between Ori and Iyami teaches us specific lessons. What happens between Obatala and Iyami teaches us other lessons. And as we learn about those different lessons, we start to get a better understanding of what it means to integrate the shadow, so that we can go beyond good and bad, and we can really embody wholeness. So the book has officially launched. I'm super excited because I've seen some good feedback so far, and I want to invite you to be a part of the conversation. So I'm going to leave a link in the description section below, and you'll be able to get a sneak preview of the book. And likewise, you'll be able to go to the website and order the full version of the book from obafemio.com/publications. Either way, I hope that you have the opportunity to consume it and think it through and chop it up with your good people in the your circle of influence. And after that, I look forward to the conversation, because conversation is what takes us higher. So until then, have a blessed day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Odabo.